Westinghouse, pioneer in the field of radio, radar, and electronics, brings you the well-known author, war correspondent, and radio friend of millions, Ted Malone. Well, you don't have to wonder much longer what your new radio will be like, how it'll look, how it'll be better than your present set. For at Westinghouse, tomorrow's radios are in production today. They'll bring you more dependable reception, these new Westinghouse radios, and finer tone, too. For many of the new Westinghouse models will bring you FM, the newer kind of radio which is so superior in both reception and in tonal fidelity. The new Westinghouse radios will be good to look at, too, for they've been designed by leading designers and stylists. Fine console sets for the living room, many with radio phonograph combinations. Yes, for beauty, style, and the greatest in listening pleasure in radios, see your Westinghouse dealer. And now, Ted Malone.
Hello there. It doesn't seem possible that the world could change as much in the next 131 years as it has in the last. But of course, that's what the people said then, too, and believed it. 131 years ago last night, a young lawyer named Francis Scott Key anxiously paced the deck of a boat in the Bay of Baltimore, waiting to see whether the British Navy, firing on Fort McHenry, had destroyed it during the night. Out of that battle fought 131 years ago last night, our national anthem was born. It's an interesting story. Maybe you'll feel different about some things if you'll listen. Nearly every country has its national anthem. Canada has 3 official songs. China's was written by its most distinguished elder statesman, Dr. Sun Yat-sen. The words are taken from a poem he wrote for a speech to a Chinese military academy in 1928. Great Britain has been singing God Save the King since 1745. Nobody knows for sure who wrote it way back there. Some say a court musician to James I, John Bull, a most appropriate name anyway. The words to Mexico's national anthem, Himno Nacional, come from the winning poem in a Mexican government competition between 25 poets. The Netherlands' national anthem has 15 verses, the first letters of each verse making an acrostic spelling William of Netherlands. Russia formerly used the Internationale as its song, but this has been changed. The official national anthem of Soviet Russia, adopted May 15, 1944, is called the Hymn of the Soviet Union. One of the most familiar foreign national anthems is the French Marseillaise, written words and music by Rouget de Lille in 1792. While it was written for the French Revolution, it was of the mayor of Strasbourg, host at a party de Lille attended. The composer went home, took out his violin, and in 6 hours wrote the words and music to one of the most stirring anthems ever written. Where did it get its name? That's an odd twist. A regiment of soldiers from Marseille heard it, liked it, and sang it wherever they went. And the people thought it was written in Marseille, so named it for the picturesque city on the Mediterranean. The Germans are confused at present. Deutschland, Deutschland über alles is still the official anthem, but Hitler and the Nazi Party adopted Horst Wessel, which Horst Wessel wrote himself, so no one is quite sure which is which. It really doesn't make much difference just now anyway. Neither one is particularly popular. Italy's national anthem, to a good many sopranos, seems to be the Italian street song. Actually, it is Giovinezza, translated youth, a drinking song, marching song of the Italian army of the last war, adopted by the fascists in this. It's one of the liveliest and happiest of all the national anthems. Japan, Rosa says, should adopt a new one. I surrender, dear. But for the record, it's a little number called Kimegayu, translated In the Reign of the Emperor. And by the way, the Japs have the oldest of all national anthems. It dates back to the 9th century. America didn't have any real song the first half of its existence. Some sang the British God Save the King, until a chap named Smith wrote our present words for America in the 1830s. Some sang Yankee Doodle. Stephen Foster's Oh, Susanna was the most popular song in the 40s. But the song that eventually became our national anthem dates back to a night in September 1814, with bombs bursting in air over Fort McHenry, 131 years ago last night. As a background for that story, maybe I should remind you a little of the man who wrote it. Francis Scott Key was born August 1st, 1799, on a plantation near Pipe Creek, Maryland. The Revolutionary War was going full swing at the time, and the elder Key was a lieutenant in the cavalry. As the years passed, young Key helped around the plantation, went to school, and his worst vice seemed to be a penchant for writing poetry. Apparently, at an early age, he announced he was going to be a lawyer, and so his schooling was continued at St. John's College in Annapolis. The poems he wrote during his undergraduate days didn't make much of an impression on the ones for whom they were written, as Polly Lloyd, the light of his life, used them for curler papers. Graduated from college when he was 21, he was admitted to the bar and began to practice law at Fredericktown, Maryland. When he was 23, Francis Scott Key went back to Annapolis, proposed to Polly Lloyd, was accepted, married her, and they set up housekeeping in Fredericktown. In the years that followed, young Key became a distinguished lawyer. Then in the summer of 1814, something happened. Seems that most of the British troops had retreated after their punitive expedition burning Washington, but that some 3 stragglers had been captured or arrested by a Dr. Beans of Bladensburg. And the indignant British, learning of this, sent back a company which not only released the stragglers, but captured the unfortunate Dr. Beans. So, Secretary of State Monroe summoned Skinner, an officer in charge of the exchange of prisoners, and Key to plead the case of the old doctor, and sent them down the Bay of Baltimore under a flag of truce. Party succeeded in contacting the British, and Key presented his case. And Dr. Beans was turned over to Key and Skinner, and the party prepared to start back. But at the last moment, they were denied permission to leave. The British were planning a night attack on Fort McHenry, and since Key and Skinner, as well as Dr. Beans, had heard some of the plans while aboard the British man-of-war, they had to remain in custody until the battle was over. Over in Baltimore, the defenders of Fort McHenry had been expecting an attack for some time. Brigadier General Stricker had asked a young widow, Mary Pickersgill, to make a new flag for the fort, a big one, 29 feet long, 36 feet wide. The stars themselves were to be 2 feet high. The only place available big enough to cut the bunting and lay it out and sew it was the warehouse of Claggett's Brewery, and there, Widow Pickersgill and her little daughter Carolyn worked nights for a week, sewing the 15 stars on the blue field, with 15 red and white stripes. That's right, 15 stripes. On the night of the 12th, it was finished. On the night of the 13th, the battle began. The American party under the flag of truce had grandstand seats for the whole battle on a small ship out in the bay, but all they could do was watch. All night, the ships poured broadside after broadside into Fort McHenry overlooking the water. One shell made a direct hit on the flag, tearing out some of the stars. A British gunner told Key to watch and see they'd all be gone by morning. Before dawn, a landing party set out with hooks and scaling ladders, but all night long, the cannons studding the fort boomed out, giving the attackers broadside for broadside. Whether Francis Scott Key actually wrote the Star-Spangled Banner on the boat the next morning or in his hotel in Baltimore, or whether it was first printed in a newspaper or on a handbill or sung in a hotel or a music hall doesn't make much difference. He did watch through the perilous night, through the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air, and in the morning, well, you know the story. Francis Scott Key went back to Fredericktown to Polly and the children. He must have told her all that happened. Probably read her the poem. He called it Defense of Fort McHenry. And she may have remembered all the poems he'd written to her when she was a girl, and she used them for curling papers. She may have been a little sorry she'd laughed at them. But I'm sure she couldn't know that in the years to come, millions of people from different lands, of different customs and different creeds, would be welded together into a great nation through the strength and inspiration of the words of this poem. I stood in Paris one afternoon about a year ago when a parade came by with a dozen bands playing, everybody laughing, shouting, when suddenly a half-hundred clear-eyed young Americans stepped snappily along the street, raised their instruments, began the Star-Spangled Banner. In a half a minute, the crowd was hushed. French people, refugees from a dozen countries, and Americans, all quiet until the last notes. And then, it was as though a storm of applause burst from all sides. The people went wild. This was the music of the people of a free country, America.
Ted Malone will be back in just a moment with today's postscript. You know, radio's newest network features no name bands or comedians, carries no commercials. It's guaranteed never to have more than a dozen listeners. It consists of 6 FM transmitters, 5 of them on diesel locomotives, and the 6th on the roof of the East Pittsburgh Westinghouse plant, which was the scene of radio's first scheduled broadcast back in 1920, the birthplace of KDKA. The network, which has a range of only 15 miles, speeds up the switching of freight on the railroad lines at various Westinghouse plants. It also gives Westinghouse a unique practical laboratory to study FM radio, which will be an important factor in future broadcasting. Many of the new radio sets now in production at Westinghouse will have built-in FM band in order to give you the superb tonal quality and reception which this newer form of radio offers. Others will be radio phonograph combinations, All will be radios unexcelled for quality, performance, and style, worthy to bear the name Westinghouse. Yes, for the finest in listening enjoyment, look to Westinghouse. And now here's Ted Malone with today's postscript.
No, not a postscript today, Chappie. It's the whole program. The Star-Spangled Banner, originally called The Defense of Fort McHenry, was written by Francis Scott Key to be sung to the tune of an old English drinking song of unknown vintage. Its composer is unknown. And although President Wilson, by executive order in 1916, declared it to be our national anthem, this did not become official until Congress passed a law and it was signed in May 1931. In May 1931, the Star-Spangled Banner became the national anthem of the United States. Today, on this, the 131st anniversary of its birthday, ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem.
Ted Malone comes to you at this time every day, Monday through Friday, brought to you by Westinghouse, maker of more than 30 million appliances for the American home. Until Monday at this same time, this is Ernest Chappell saying goodbye for Westinghouse. Just a brief reminder, poor light means strained sight, work undone, impaired vision. Protect your sight with the right light, and for the right light, get Westinghouse bulbs. Yes, for seeability, insist on the quality bulb, Westinghouse bulbs.
This is the American Broadcasting Company.
Westinghouse, leader in the field of light as in everything electrical, brings you the well-known author, war correspondent, and radio friend of millions, Ted Malone. Well, friends, your guide to quality when you buy light bulbs is a name you know well, Westinghouse. The men of Westinghouse spare no efforts to make Westinghouse bulbs as perfect as possible. Every Westinghouse bulb is a product of painstaking research and engineering skill, rigid quality control, precision manufacture. To ensure best results, Westinghouse designed its own precision machines, refines its own tungsten to a purity of 99 9/10%. When you buy Westinghouse Mazda bulbs for your home, you buy bulbs that burn brighter and last longer than ordinary bulbs. So for better seeability in your home, insist on Westinghouse bulbs. And now, Ted Malone.
Hello there. Almost every day, someone asks if we're going to write a book on our experiences overseas. Reserving the right to change my mind? No. But there is one war book that should be written and is going to be written. And I'm going to ask you today to provide some of the pages for that book. Here's the story. I received a letter the other day from Dr. W. Francis English, head of the Department of History at the University of Missouri, with one of the most interesting, one of the most important requests I've had. It's important to you, too, because it involves you. Dr. English and his staff at Missouri University are compiling a book of this war composed entirely of letters and excerpts from letters written to you folk back home by your serviceman or servicewoman overseas. A book designed to be a moving chronicle of the war, as seen and reported by the G.I. Joes and Janes of America. Some of the greatest stories of this war have flown from far-off shores to the homes of America in the simple, honest, uninhibited words of your boys and girls in service writing their letters home. So here's what I want you to do. Read over these letters you've saved, choose the one you think best, copy it, and send it to me today. Remember, though, since the volume of mail makes it impossible for any of the letters to be returned, don't send the original. Make a copy of it instead. If you have difficulty choosing the letter you want to send, if you have 3 or 4 tied for top honors, make copies of them all and send them on. And Dr. Francis and his staff at Missouri University will make the final choices for the book. These don't have to be dramatic letters, pages filled with great adventure, but just the simple, honest, heartfelt expressions of feeling as written by your boys and girls in their own words and their own thoughts. Homey, conversational letters like this one written by a homesick merchant mariner, dreaming of a ranch somewhere back here. Dear Mom, it began. Didn't write yesterday. It was the roughest yet. I didn't feel too good, so I slept all day. Today's a little calmer, and what a relief. We're getting away from the coastal swells now. I don't mind it so bad when it's not rough, but I lost my appetite just out of Frisco. Maybe I'll get it back now. More and more I think of the old ranch. Soon as the war's over, I'm going to settle down on it and lead a life I'll be contented in. I'm letting my whiskers grow. Haven't shaved since we left the Golden Gate. Wonder how long they'll get. I went on watch at noon today, and at 4:30 the Navy crew had anti-aircraft drills. They'll sure make it hot for those Japs. We're 100 miles ahead of our convoy now. Maybe they'll catch us in a few days. Got clean linen today. Had spaghetti for supper. Got to study now, so write me soon. Love, Norm. Written without any thought of publication, these words sent to a mother tell a simple but dramatic story of war itself. Certainly you must have received a letter like that. Copy it and send it to me today. It's an opportunity for you to contribute to history and to do a favor for your guy or gal, perpetuating their words for history in a book that will picture the war through their war letters home. Out on Kwajalein Atoll, a young Navy ensign, commander of an LCT, took a few minutes out the other day to write a girl back home, secretary in our office. Thanks a lot for your letter, gal, he wrote. The lifting of censorship permits me to tell you where I am now, Kwajalein. As you know, this is where Raymond Klepper was killed. We discovered the wreckage of his plane a few months ago while searching for another. General Harmon also took off from here only to vanish on the way to Pearl Harbor. Our main job has been to carry aviation gas and supplies for the B-29s, as this is their only base between Pearl Harbor and Guam. Most of the time we were menaced by Jap subs coming from other islands nearby. Millie Atoll, only 50 miles away, was a big Jap sub base. We've really been more lucky than some of the other LCTs. Sort of makes you thank God all around. Letters from Army men, men of the sea, from Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force, just as they wrote them to you here at home. Letters like this one written by a bomber pilot stationed somewhere in England to a friend back here in New York. Dear Buddy, well, here it is my birthday, and I'm in combat. Things are a little different than in the good old States. You know, you really don't know there's a war going on over there. I didn't even know it till now. It's more than just being without butter and meat and walking instead of riding. Over here, it's going without sleep at night and wondering if that next one is yours, sweating it out during a raid. Or it's like a buddy of mine who used to bunk with me. He was married 3 months before he came across, over here 6 months, and was one of the missing at the Ploesti, the great raid. We went through his effects to sort out what to send home to his wife and family, It was a letter he received the day of the raid, one he'd never seen or opened. It was from his wife, and it said he was the proud father of an 8-pound baby girl. He never knew it. In some ways, I'm glad the folks back home don't know there's a war going on. Don't have to worry about bombs or gas or blackout. That's one of the reasons we're fighting, of course. But it would do us all a lot of good if we could take a newsreel of a bomber landing back at the home field after a raid, seeing the bomb bay doors open, the boys getting out, the hole in the pilot's side, the broken glass in the nose, the red streaks of blood painted by the wind on the fuselage, the co-pilot and the radio man carrying out what's left of the pilot, tenderly but self-consciously as though it were still breakable. The bombardier with his buddy's blood all over him and nothing to say to the ground man who puts his arms around him. The tail gunner who continues to sit in his turret and putter with his guns, although there's no need to now. Believe me, friend, I've seen this picture so many times late I'll never be able to erase it from my mind. Wouldn't want to if I could. You have to see it with your own eyes before you believe that this war isn't just another movie with the good guys beating the bad guys, the kidding about death, and that standard gag of the American boy being equal to 5 Germans and 10 Japs. Well, buddy, guess that's all for this time. Take good care of yourself. My love to your folks. Just simply saying, good luck. We got a lot of letters like this, but we need some more. It's not a commercial enterprise by an individual, but rather an educational and historical project for publication endorsed by the University of Missouri. Go through your serviceman's letters right now. Choose the most interesting, the most picturesque, the most vivid, the most typical. Make a copy of it and send it to me. Ted Malone, American Broadcasting Company, New York 20, New York, and mark it War Letters. I'll make it my responsibility to see to it that your letter is delivered to the university immediately to compete for its place in the pages of history with America's war letters of her fighting men.
Ted Malone will be back in just a moment with today's postscript. Westinghouse engineers perfected countless special lighting units for our armed forces during the war. But the fact is, standard Westinghouse bulbs did their bit, too. For example, a tiny Westinghouse lamp usually found in the taillight of bicycles. It proved ideal for attaching to cargo parachutes for night operations. And this same small bulb became a miniature beacon to guide survivors to life preservers in inky black seas. Household-size Westinghouse lamps, wired in strands like Christmas tree lights, proved invaluable for quick marking of emergency landing fields. Whatever the problem, an answer was found, thanks to American ingenuity. And now here's Bess Johnson with ingenious hints on home lighting from Westinghouse.
Well, Chappie, ingenious isn't quite the word. Home lighting is more than a matter of common sense. After all, home is where the heart is. Home should be a bright, cheerful place. And there's nothing quite like plenty of light to provide a pleasant, cheery atmosphere. More important, proper lighting means seeability. That is the right light in the right place. Make sure there's plenty of light in the kitchen and laundry. Place 100-watt Westinghouse bulbs wherever anyone reads, writes, or sews. Why not check seeability in your home today? Replace blackened, half-exhausted bulbs and fill the empty sockets with Westinghouse bulbs. For better seeability, for brighter, longer-lasting light, insist on Westinghouse bulbs.
And now here's Ted Malone with today's postscript.
Remember, the letters your boys and girls wrote you from overseas may be just the ones Dr. English and his staff at Missouri University are looking for. So go through your letters now, today. Choose the one you think best, copy it off, and send it to me. Ted Malone, American Broadcasting Company, New York 20, New York. Mark it War Letter, and I'll deliver it immediately to Dr. English and his staff, who'll make the final choices. Although we're not asking for poetry in these letters, there's many a dramatic story told in lines of verse, as in this poem by George Abbey, who was stationed at Camp Crowder, Missouri. He calls it Letter Home. When the bell in the white steeple rings, I am in that ringing. When the brown thrush in the greenwood sings, hear me in the singing. For all the beauty that you taught in those first years, in the long growing, live now in every realm of thought, like clean wind high blowing, like deer that from a dark wood springs. And when the long war comes to end, within me, as in worlds around, the peace you gave, the love you send, long held in fertile ground, will blossom on the air of home, in the steeple light, and in the thrush's song. Hold fast, dear hearts, keep courage warm. I shall not stay too long, too long. And when I stand with you again, I shall be nearer, out of pain. Steeple and thrush and hills in storm, familiar soil and friendly rain, all these will shine with clearer light because of absence and the long night. Goodbye.
Ted Malone comes to you at this time every day, Monday through Friday, brought to you by Westinghouse, maker of more than 30 million appliances for the American home. Until tomorrow at this same time, this is Ernest Chappell saying goodbye for Westinghouse. And here's a friendly reminder, improper light means strained sight, often impaired vision. So protect your sight with the right light now. Westinghouse bulbs mean extra comfort because they burn brighter, last longer. Get better seeability with Westinghouse bulbs.
This is the American Broadcasting Company.